anything is interrupted. So as we know that recently the education policy announced, and at that time we all were very surprised कि oh, there can be a policy or there should be a policy, because this policy was revised almost after 30 years or more than 30 years. So in our active time we haven't seen any introduction of education policies. So everyone was surprised, and then we really tried to do research that what is education policy previously when it was came, and then suddenly we started thinking about what was the real need of this policy and how this is going to change. So in fact, I thought, why can't we have an opportunity where we can revise everything on education? What was there in past? What was there in ancient time? What was there in medieval time or recent times? And how this education has shaped up in India, and what is there for us in education policy 2020. So my whole talk is outlined like this. Initially, I'll be discussing ancient education system, how the education was there, then medieval education system, then modern education system, probably during British era, and then after independence, how and when the education policies were introduced uh, after independence, which are the dates, which were the commissions which introduced the education policies. And then we will also compare Indian and foreign education systems and policies, and what is there specifically for higher education in national education policy, for technical education as well as uh, higher education. And then what are the changes that are proposed in NPE. And also I will share you the list of references. One thing I would like to make sure that I'm not an expert on education policies. Only through my work in NBA, I was getting inclined toward this policy, and hence I'm sharing whatever knowledge I am having through the online and offline resources. So together we can explore what is there in education policies. So to start with, what was our ancient education system in India? So you all know that India had a very rich cultural heritage, and cultural heritage has to be supported by some kind of education as well. So long back, like before Vedic times, there was no formal education in India, and in fact, everything was happening like father used to pass his knowledge to his child, and primary it was related to his occupation. So if you remember, in ancient India, the thing was everything was given in heritage. Like Porter's son will become Porter, and Smith's son will become Smith. Likewise, the things were going, and there was no formal education. People were transferring their skills to their upcoming generation with the way of experiences and with the way of teaching skills and all. But there was no books for that, there was no curriculum for that, there was no university for that. So it was all going by mouth, right? In fact, it is said that very few texts are written in India, but there was a lot of knowledge available, but not all the knowledge was documented, and hence we have very like some Vedas are there and some Upanishads are there. They are available, but then there was lot more than that which was not available right now, because in Indian system of knowledge, things were given mouth to mouth, and very less amount of knowledge is available on paper. Then little late, some two systems of education came into existence. That was Vedic system and Buddhist system. So Vedic system was revolved around the Vedas, Vedangas, and Upanishads, while Buddhist system is revolving around like Buddhist schools. Majorly, the language of instructions were Sanskrit for Vedic system and Pali for Buddhist system. So, what was the uniqueness in ancient Indian education? So, if you see that at that time, ancient India was quite different from the rest of the world. Like there was not much of the transportation or people are moving here and there. So people were very confined into India, and there was no interference of society stage with curriculum or administration. A child has to leave his home, go to the Gurukul, and then he has to learn staying there only, right? Education was free of cost. Physical labor was utmost important. Child, whatever field he is taking, either his philosophical knowledge or any other thing, but he has to do some manual work, and his food, his clothing and housing, everything was taken care by teacher himself. Debates and discussion was part of education even in ancient days. So it was a kind of a free education at that time. In the Vedic system, child started his education almost at the age of 5, and it was been done by some kind of a sanskar or some kind of a commencement of Vidyarambha ceremony. And generally they worship the goddess Saraswati, and once only the Brahmin, Khatri and Vaishya were allowed. As you know that there were caste system, so only few caste or few society were allowed in Gurukul. It was comprising of mainly teachings of Vedas like Rigved, Samved, Yajurved and Atharvaved, and 6 Vedangas like ritual knowledge, then metrics, exegesis, grammar, phonetics and astronomy. These are the 6 main Vedans. And there were Upanishads and Tarka Shastra, logical reasoning and Purans. So all these things were taught to them. So this is kind of a one depiction that how the Vedas were taught during those days. Similar way, a Buddhist system of study was slightly different. Here, the study was starting at the age of 8 by doing some ceremony called Prabhajya or Pavajja. That was practiced by boys for all the caste. So in Vedic system, few castes were not allowed, but in Buddhist system, all the castes were allowed. The main subject of Buddhist system was 3 Pitakas, that is Vinay, Abhidham and Sutta, the most recognized work of all 18 Buddhist schools. So it is a very deep system. We really need a lot of knowledge about that, but here just for the sake of understanding, there are some 3 subjects, and some common subjects were like arithmetic, military science, law, performing arts, ethics, arts and architecture. They were the common subjects similar to Vedic system, and this is one depiction how the Buddhist school were operative. Unfortunately, women education was inferior in those days. Although it is said that women education was given importance, but we didn't. We see only few names who could got formal education. So girls will also have this Upanayana Sanskara, and then we had certain educated women also. But then we have 2 categories of women taking education. One category says that Sadhyo Vahas, they used to take education only till they get married, and then Brahma Vadinis, they never get married, but then they continue studying throughout their lives. So Veda and Vedangas were taught to women, but only up to extent to religious songs and some poems necessary for rituals. And few notable Vedic and Upanishad women scholars were like Apala, Indrani, Ghosha, Lopamudra, Gargi, Maitri likewise. We have certain references also which I have indicated over here. But again, you don't have that many references like a male part. Like in male part, you must be knowing so many Rishimonis and so many scholars. So women were not given that much of opportunity, but yes, again, for the sake of indicating, we have few names also. So this is one picture depicting how women were trained or taught in a by a Buddhist monk. Now, what is the aim of education? during those days also, and even today also, these are some of the points which are very relevant. So it was mainly aimed that you should require a good quality education, cultural enrichment, character should be built up, your personality should be developed, and cultivation of noble ideas or ideals to make the student future ready and survive in any situation. Even today it is relevant. The objective was to gain mental, physical and intellectual personality of the students and practical knowledge rather than theoretical knowledge. Overall development of the students. These are the basic aim of education that were true on those days also. Even today, these things are true. Certain things have been added to this. Now, which institutes were very famous during those days? So we all know that there are few like Takshashila, Nalanda, Vallabhipur. They were all famous institutes. The major two were Takshashila and Nalanda. So Takshashila was mainly famous for its teaching in Buddhism. It was famous for higher education, and there were many subjects like scriptures, law, medicine, sociology, astronomy, military science. Likewise, many subjects were taught. Like famous personalities like Chanakya and Panini. Panini was an expert of grammar, and Chanakya was expert of statesmanship. Similar way, various from the various parts of world, Kashi, Kosala, Magadha, all were and from various different countries, people used to go to that university. Right now, this university is actually in Pakistan, northwestern Pakistan. It is also announced as a UNESCO heritage site in 1980. So we really don't know what exactly right now this university is having or what structure they have, but that was the ancient India. Similar way, another part in Bihar, we have a university called Nalanda. And there also we used to have a Veda, fine arts, medicine, mathematics, astronomy, many other things were taught. It is also announced as a heritage site by UNESCO. And few other universities like Vallabhi, then Vikramshila in Ujjain and Banaras. Vallabhi University was also famous because it is on the seashore. It was on the seashore, and there also law, medicine, economics were taught. Vikramshila was again known for Tantric Buddhism. So this is one of the site depicting the Nalanda University at Bihar. So what were the good points of ancient education? It was focusing on the all-round development of the students. Emphasis was given to practical knowledge, and mostly kings were supporting. Like teachers or the schools does not have to depend on the fees they received, but kings at that time used to finance or they used to develop this education, and the government did not interfere with the formation of curriculum. It was in the hand of all the teachers that what they really want to teach, and there was no pressure laid on the students like they have to get some marks or something like that. Environment was very pleasant as the classroom were built in forest, and as the students were completely 24/7 staying in the school or the ashrams only, so they were able to contribute fully for their education. Some disadvantage was like women were not given admissions to Gurukul, and there was a discrimination based on caste, like Kshatriya was allowed, and we also know the famous story of Eklavya, where he was not given admission to Gurukul. So there were some issues also regarding caste and for the woman student. Now let us come. Then we don't have any record of some 1,000, 2,000 years in between. Later on, some came medieval education. So we presume that during those 780 years or 1000 years, it would have continued like that only. Later on in medieval education, in 8th century, Mohammedan people invaded India, and Muhammad Ghaznavi captured India and set up large number of schools and libraries. So during medieval education, mostly Arab and Turk brought some new cultures, traditions, institutions in India. and they were based on Islamic pattern, which was very different from the Buddhist education system. So the education system primarily focused on Islamic and Mughal system of teaching in medieval age. Here the main objective in medieval age was to spread the knowledge and propagation of Islam. So objective behind this era of education was to teach the principles and social conventions of that era. Now, what were the subjects of study during those era? In medieval era, the subjects of studies were like Arabian and Persian languages were the major part. The recitation of Quran was made compulsory, and then Islamic and Persian scholar and teacher Ibn Sina, who was a very famous Islamic scholar. So in his writings, he said that mainly the skill sets were reading, manual skills, literature, medicine, geometry, trade, commerce. So in that era also, these kind of things were there. But then it was taught which from the knowledge which was borrowed from Arabian and Persian philosophies. There were two types of education system existing during those time. One was religious education and second was secular education. In religious education, mainly Quran, Muhammadan, his inventions, Islamic laws and Islamic theories were taught. In secular education, it was also including Arabic literature, grammar, history, philosophy, mathematics, geography, politics, economics, and Greek language also. There were two stages of education. One is called maktabas and another is called madrasas. So maktabas is like a primary education and madrasas is kind of a higher education. So during higher education, at the time of Akbar, he remarkably modified the education system, and along with religious and practical education, uh, Akbar also involves some Hinduism subjects and philosophy in many madrasas, and medicine, history, geography, and all these things also will taught or was taught. Akbar also introduced some subjects like Vedanta and Patanjali and also Sanskrit for certain segments of the student. Advantages of medieval education was practical education was given more importance. Student and teacher relations were good. Students were taught from the basics and rulers used to support the development of education. The disadvantage was religious and Islamic education was given more importance and focus was aimed on leadership for the ruling the country. So that were the issues. Now let us understand the modern education system. Now can't we say it won't be modern education system, but we can say a British era kind of education system. So British invaded India and started to capture the middle of the medieval age. So Lord Macaulay in 1830, we all know that the famous report of Macaulay, and he says that unless and until we crash the education system of India, we won't be able to rule this country. So after 1830, they completely change our histories and completely change the whole teaching methodology and English language introduced. And that's why even today we don't know what is our rich heritage, because they completely taught for 130 years. They keep on teaching the things what they said, right? So right now, after 130 years, or let's say after 200 years of this introduction of policy, we really don't know that what was our history, because many of the text, many of the things are not available to us right now. So main aim of the modern education system, what British taught, was to spread Christianity, and subjects and syllabus were limited to only some extent. Education was developed. Some subjects like science, technology, innovations, they were introduced, but again mostly they want to produce certain labors for their development. So Indian education system was more focused on producing clerks and laborers rather than innovators. કોઈનું માઇક ચાલુ થઈ ગયું છે, બંધ કરજો જરા. ઓકે, પ્રેઝન્ટેશન દેખાય છે બધાને?
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Sir.
So aim of British education system was to inculcate more of clerical system and to produce workforce which was required for their own work, right? So if you remember, during British era we don't had establishment of very great universities or big institutes. Only if you remember one Thomson College of Civil Engineering that was established in Roorkee because they wanted to build dams and railways. So few engineering institutes like VJTI, Bombay or Roorkee College, they were the few institutes only which came up, but otherwise there was no leap of education. Let's try to understand at present how we are envisaging or how we are seeing the education. So at present what we have is primary education, what we call as a 1 to 10 standard. Then we have a secondary education. In primary education we generally try to teach history, geography, mathematics, science, Hindi, all kind of stuff. Then secondary education is 11th and 12th standard, where we have a choice of science and commerce, and graduation where we go to university via some entrance exam, and then we do the courses of graduation depending on our choice. Similar way, this is a curriculum, but if you see the education institutes, then generally schools are the educational institutes where children send for their primary education. Colleges, now generally in Gujarat we don't call 11th and 12th standard as a college, but if you go to Maharashtra or if you go to Karnataka or rest of the India, 11th and 12th standard is considered as a college. So in rest of India, 11th, 12th is a junior college, and after 12th is a senior college. And in university, secondary education is taken place. At least for engineering, we have to clear some JEE, and for sciences and commerce, you can get a direct admission. University course can be of 3 years or can be of 4 years, depending on the course you select. Now, at present, what is the advantage of this modern education? We use technology. Student is learning freelancing and many other new technologies. Order to increase the employment of India, many programs and missions have started, and top class colleges and universities with good environment and infrastructures are available. So at present, what is the scenario? The scenario is that every state has great university, great institution. Previously it was like in India you can have like 10 to 20 great institutions at the time of independence, but now if you see, each particular state has a big university, has better engineering colleges, better medical colleges, and in fact the government aims to have at least one good college of each cadre in each district. So in fact, if you see even last 20-30 years, we have seen that previously when we used to study, there were only 6 engineering colleges, but right now you can see almost 150 engineering colleges. So that is how the system is changing. What are the disadvantages of present day admission education system? So disadvantages, there is a lot of government interference in education, management and syllabus. So education has to be totally free from government, but nowadays what we see is It is completely controlled by government. Management is also controlled by them, and also they interfere in syllabus. A lot of pressure and burden of work and studies on students. Students are totally loaded once he clears 10 standard till he gets engineering or medical degrees, completely burdened. There is a lack of practical knowledge. It is all theoretical. Increase of school fees and college fees of private universities. As you all know that there is a lot of fees which previously it was kind of a free education, but nowadays fee is a headache for families. The family which is below poverty line cannot afford the education as the free increase of fees, and hence the number of laborers are increasing in India. Lack of connectivity for students who live in rural areas. Someone who is staying in Rajpipla or Dahod, he has to migrate to get higher education. Now let us try to see what are the education policies in independent India and what was the aim of each policy year by year, so that we could understand that how the education has shaped up in our country. So after the independence and the constitution was adopted in 1950, education became the responsibility of state and central government. As we all know that each department, each cater has been divided between central and state government. Like foreign policy or defense is a responsibility of central government, but then sanitization and all is a responsibility of state or municipality. But education is such a area where central and state both try to contribute and participate. Constitution make us recognize the stability and progress of the country. So it will be they said that it largely depends on the well educated electorate, well educated system. So the Constitution not only emphasizes the principle of equality of educational opportunity, but also achieving social justice through policy of positive discrimination. So education policies came time to time. Initially, they were coming in the form of Education Commission. So the first University Education Commission was established in 1948. So University Education Commission was established in 1948, and the chairman was Dr. S. Radhakrishnan. Later on, he became vice president, but previously he was, as we all know, he was a great academician. So under his chairmanship, this University Education Commission was set up, and they gave improvements and extension desirable to suit the present and future requirements. So they proposed a report also. The aim was to create effective and functional democracy and reduce socio-economic inequalities, because at the time of independence there was a great socio-economic inequality was there. So initially the aim of education was to bring people at least mentally to similar level of socio-economic understanding. This commission had aim for creating universities which would provide knowledge, wisdom for a comprehensive development of the personality. Secondary Education Commission was established in 1952. So under the chairmanship of A. Lakshmana Swamy Mudaliar in 1952, Secondary Education Commission was set up, and its reports were tabled in 1953. So previous commission was University Education Commission, that is for higher education. Second commission was for secondary education system. So it suggested a diversification of high school courses and establishment of multi-purpose high schools. Another proposal which was made by them was a uniform pattern throughout the India. Further, it also recommended the setting up the technical schools. So technical schools came into existence after 1953. The recommendation of commission was to occupy a very significant place in the development of secondary education. However, commission's report also did not provide framework for promotion of women's education. So till 19, even second commission came, there was a less focus on women education, uh, even in 1952. Then after 20, some 12 to 13 years, another commission was set up. That was Indian Education Commission 1964 to 66. So Mudaliar Commission was followed by the appointment of Indian Education Commissioner under the chairman of D.S. Kothari, which was popularly known as Kothari Commission. So in accordance with recommendation of Kothari Commission, National Education Policy was framed in 1968. So first effective policy came in 1968, that is called National Education Policy. राइट अब तक जो भी थे वो कमीशंस थे और कमीशंस ने कुछ रिकमेंडेशन किए बट दे वर नॉट इन द फॉर्म ऑफ पॉलिसी. So the first policy you can say it came in 1968 by Kothari Commission. So in the opening paragraph of Kothari Commission, they observe that the destiny of India is now being shaped in her classrooms only. Like India's destiny, India's future depends mainly on its education system. So as per the view of Kothari Commission, the power to work is a powerful instrument of social, economic and political change. So they wanted to make people skillful, they wanted to make people work so that there is a change of social, economic and political environment. The conclusion that Indian education needs a drastic reconstruction, almost a revolution, to realize the constitutional goals and to meet the various problems facing the country for different sectors. So commission had three main aspects: internal transformation, then qualitative improvements, and expansion of educational facilities. These are the three main aspects which was scattered in Indian education policy, National Education Policy 1964 or 68. So based on the recommendation by Kothari Commission, uh, Indira Gandhi, then Prime Minister, announced this as a radical restructuring of the education system. And it was, as I said, it is the first policy came by government of India to promote and regulate the education in country. So by that time, there was weak regulations by the government, but now there was some policy which is going to regulate the education in India. The policy covers the elementary education to higher education all over India in both rural and urban areas. The national policy on education sought total reformation and aimed at extending the prospects of education to all the section of society. The goal was harmony and integration. What were the key points of National Education Policy 1968? It was, first thing was free and compulsory education for the children of 16 to 14 years of age group. Although it was free, but it was not in the form of a right. Right to education came very recently, but government made it compulsory, but it was not like a right to education. At that time, there were three language formula introduced: English as a medium of instruction in many schools, Hindi as national language, and Sanskrit as an ancestral language. But again, English was not compulsory in kind of a regional schools. In regional schools, they can have optional subjects also like local languages. Educational opportunities to be provided irrespective of caste, region, religion, gender, physical or mental disability. That was also the key resolution. Talent identification was also given importance. And first time it was talking about training and qualification of teachers. So first policy also tried to give some weightage to training of teachers, and some part-time courses were developed for at university level. The policy was criticized also for promotion of three language formulas, because as you know that many states are still opposing Hindi as a national language. So many states also criticized for the three language formula. But again, every policy, you have a criticism, you have a favor. So always this happens. So this policy still held the first systematic effort to give some shape to Indian education system. Then after 18 to 20 years, another policy came, that is called National Education Policy 1986, and special emphasis were given on removal of disparities of equalized educational opportunities. So Government of India initiated the policy under the leadership of Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi, and main objective was to provide equal opportunities to scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, third backward classes, women who were deprived of educational opportunities for centuries. So in 1986, government felt that although education and everything what we are providing is going mostly to the upper classes, and certain segments of society like scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, backward classes and women, they are still deprived of that. And probably after that, they bring out certain quota for all the students. So key resolutions of NP 1986 were, or NEP 1986 were, Operation Blackboard was launched in National Policy of Education 1986 to provide primary education to students nationwide. So some keywords were used like Operation Blackboard. Then scholarship base was expanded, adult education, Proud Shikshan, what we call, that also been promoted. Recruiting of SC/ST communities teachers were also done. Poor families were given incentives like Madhyan Bhojan and all. New institutions were developed. It also gave importance to open universities such as IGNOU and all. So open universities came up during those era. It also set the stage for emergence of information technology in education. The policy was recognized as a rural university model in consonance with the Gandhian philosophy, because generally Gandhian philosophy says that rural infrastructure must be incorporated in the present day life. So this also tried to bring in rural university model into picture. The education system was 10 plus 2 plus 3. Initially, if you remember, 11th standard was considered as the last stage, and then there was a college. But then now it came 10 plus 2 plus 3 model, and then national curriculum framework was also developed, and certain stalwart institutions like UGC, NCERT, AICT, they all were strengthened, and they also got some national importance. Now the same policy, 1986 policy, got some amendment, and amendment was done under the chairman of Acharya Ramamurthy. So in 1919, the commission was set up, and they gave some recommendation to improvise National Education Policy 1986. So later, under the leadership of N. Janardhan Reddy, Central Advisory Board of Education was set up, which considered some modification in NPE, and those modifications are known as Amendment of NPE 1986. In 2005 also, former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh adopted a new policy based on the Common Minimum Program of UPA government, and did some modification in that policy. So key resolutions of NEP or NP 1986 or 1992, they were like, the common resolutions were like to have a common entrance exam. So in those era it was like AIEEE. Right now we call it as a JEE. So AIEEE was introduced for national level institutions. Then state level engineering entrance exams started after that. And then the main aim was to reduce the burden of parents, mental and financial burdens on students, and multiplicity of the entrance exams. They try to remove all these things from this particular improvement. The main objective was to achieve universal access and enrollment, computer literacy, and value-based education. Even teacher training programs were also emphasized in that policy. Now, before coming to this policy, because this policy came in 2020 and previous policy was there in 1986. So you can say there is a gap of almost 34 years, right? Although some amendment came in 1992 and 2006, but again, they were just amendment and not the drastic change of policy. So let us try to understand how the education system in India and other countries work, and then we will discuss present education policy. So it will be better that are you really going for a world-class education or not? So let us try to compare the Indian education system and foreign education system based on various criteria. So the first criteria is option to switch. Like, do we have a switching option? So switching of major subjects in the middle of course is not possible. Let's say if you are having a chemistry major, then you can't opt for subjects like economics or physics in the middle of your course. So like once you are entering into electrical engineering, you are in electrical engineering only. You cannot go for biology, you cannot go for sociology or economics, something like that. In most of the universities based in US or Europe, they allow students to switch the subjects from middle of the course and don't limit them to one subject only, right? So there is some kind of a freedom for student if we want to change, want to switch in between. Approach towards education. So in Indian education system, curriculum is relied on the research that has been conducted in the past and focus more on theoretical education. इंडिया में क्या है, हम लोग जो भी रिसर्च करते हैं वो क्या करते हैं कि पिछले वाले ने क्या काम किया था, what are the past paper available. So we try to refer past research and our research is based on the past readings and we are generally focusing on theoretical education. In foreign education, they try to give you fresh research other than what has happened in past or what has discovered in the past, and they try to follow more practical approach in the education. Research initiative. In India, despite the continuous help offered by although government gives you some help, research funds are very limited, very small research funds are available. So research initiatives are also less. While in foreign education system, big organizations like Google, Microsoft fund the research in universities. So better research initiatives are offered in foreign education system. Curriculum. So here implementation of modification based on the latest and approved research studies are quite late in curriculum. Actually होना क्या चाहिए कि यूनिवर्सिटी जो है वो रिसर्च करके कंपनी को देने चाहिए. तो रिसर्च शुड इनिशिएटेड फ्रॉम यूनिवर्सिटी एंड देन गो टू इंडस्ट्री. बट इंडिया में क्या होता है, इंडस्ट्री पहले ले लेती है, बाद में यूनिवर्सिटी उसको सीखती है कि यहाँ से ये आएगा. तो इट इज वेरी लेट इंट्रोडक्शन इन यूनिवर्सिटी. Universities in US and some other countries offer more advanced education as they update curriculum every now and then. Updation of syllabus is very frequent in foreign universities, while here updation is very less, and even the updation happens that comes very late in curriculum. Exposure. India has not yet been able to internationalize education in order to attract students from various countries to choose courses offered by Indian university. यानी भारत में फॉरेन से आने वाले स्टूडेंट्स बहुत ही कम है बिकॉज वी कुड नॉट इंटरनेशनलाइज आवर एजुकेशन सिस्टम. Foreign universities have a mixed group of students and generally they get students from all across the globe. So now it is a need in India that we have a lot of students. We need international students. We should offer a quality education so that people can come from outside to learn in India. Just like in medical tourism. In medical, many patients come from outside to get operated in India, either maybe because of quality of medical system or because of cost, but they are coming over here. So similar way, we see very less amount of students coming out to India for studies. So that is a difference. Then course options. In Indian universities and colleges, limited courses to choose. In international university, you have multiple courses, specialization, so options are more there. Here, job opportunities by universities are very less and only top educational institutes can provide. International university provide excellent job opportunity. In fact, in international universities, you always have on-campus job. Many times you have an on-campus job, or even with the studies, you can do some job. Here, we in fact discourage student that you can't do a job while you are studying. You require to be here only. So in generally we don't allow students, or I don't know, there is some kind of a framework available where student can work and learn together. Very few or maybe no universities providing that kind of a system in India. Funds. Education in India is very affordable still. Like if you go to government college or so, it is still affordable. In developed country, cost of living, food, travel, everything is added in overall expenditure. So if you are going from India to foreign country, for you, it's a costly system. And if you are here and studying here, it would be that way affordable education, at least for India. So at least there is something good for India, that its system is still affordable. Return on investment. So depending on the college you are going to join, ROI of Indian universities conditional. And in foreign university, cost of studying might be expensive, but the study abroad gives a good start to one's career, as the return on investment of foreign universities is good. So if someone is opening university in India and university abroad, so even from the perspective of return on investment, foreign universities earn better. In India, it depends like how you are performing. University like Nirma may have good return of investment, but someone who is opening or not performing better may not be getting good return on investment. From the student perspective, again, student is investing some money in some university by spending some years over there. It is again conditional from which university is getting passed. Scholarships. In Indian universities, scholarships are very limited. In foreign universities, you have numerous scholarships for international students, and also they can take work study programs. Now, every education system has its pros and cons. Like, it is not that all the foreign education is the best and Indian education is worst. There is always a pros and cons. So as a developing nation, Indian education system has been developed on the pillars that supports the theoretical knowledge and prepare the students for some of the toughest competitive exams in the world. So it is not that the Indian system is totally bad, because if you see that, okay, in last 70 years, we could see that there is a huge leap in education system in India. Previously, if you see, 90% of the people were remaining illiterate. Now you see that majority of the people are literate, and at least they have gone to school. Secondly, theoretical knowledge is very strong in Indian education system, and the students who are learning schools in India, they can crack the toughest exam of the world. You must be knowing that JEE is one of the toughest exam across the globe, which Indian students are facing. So whereas the education system of other nations are more flexible, which allows students to pursue varied career opportunities than the mainstream options. So in foreign education system, flexibility is good. In Indian education system, the theoretical knowledge is good for the Indian students. Now let us start discussion on education policy. So up till now, whatever we have discussed, that was the base, how the education has evolved in India and how we were performing. Now, based on the past experiences, the National Education Policy 2020 was framed. So, the current education system has also been very often criticized for rigid and reductant, focusing more on content and result. So, in NEP 2020, actually it is replacing this NEP 1986. So, in 2015, committee was formed under the Cabinet Secretary TSR Subramaniam. Now, generally, someone who is heading national education policy should be a academician. But here again, we have a Cabinet Secretary TSR Subramaniam, uh, who was heading the committee for national education policy. Based on the committee report in 2017, NEP draft was made ready, submitted in 2019 by a panel led by former ISRO's chief Krishnaswamy Kasturirangan, and this draft was released by MHRD in public, and it was kept open for public consultation. So NEP draft was available to general public for 1 year for giving their comments, for giving guidances, and consultations happened. Numerous consultation happened for the draft. So new NEP aims to encourage cognition and creativity that will lead to restructuring of entire system, more learner centric, based on pillars of access, equality, quality, affordability, and accountability. So these are the main pillars which NEP is envisaging. Education policies across the world continue to change dynamically. While India, as I told you, almost for 34 years did not revise the policy, thus leaving out students here with less leverage and compared to the students globally. So हमने 34 years तक पॉलिसी चेंज नहीं किया, जबकि पूरे वर्ल्ड में डायनामिकली चेंज होती रहती है. Not just the education sector today, but the country's economic and social progress in future will depend on the impact of this NEP. So in 2019, Ministry of MHRD, as I told you, drafted the new policy, followed by number of public consultation. So what are the highlights of this NEP? So 10+2 structure will be modified to 5+3+3+4. That is from 3 to 8 years, 5 years, that will fall under the foundational stage. Then 8 to 11, that is under the preparatory stage. 11 to 14, it will be under the middle stage, and 14 to 18 will be secondary stage. So 5, that is 3 to 8, then 8 to 11 is 3 years, then 11 to 14 is again 3 years, and then 14 to 18 is again 4 years. Likewise, it will go. So 10+2 is replaced by 5+3+3+4. Then here there is a promotion of multilingualism and native languages. So again, after the introduction of policy, many criticism came regarding languages. But again, if you see the draft says that it is going to promote the multi-language and native language policy. Medium of instruction will be home language wherever possible till class 5, and Indian arts of all kinds to be offered at all levels to the students. So Indian crafts and native language will be there till class 5. Student to take school examinations in grade 3, 5 and 8 to track the progress of education. So standard 3, 5 and 8 will have a school exams, and these exams will be overseen by appropriate authority. Now it does not mean that there won't be any exam in class 2, class 4 or class 6 and 7. But in policy, it is said that these are the compulsory years where student examination may be tracked by appropriate authority. It may also give chance that if student does not have to appear or school don't have to take exams, then they may avoid during those years. So this is one proposition. Then board exams in class 10 and 12, they will be redesigned, they will be made easier, and probably they will primarily test the competencies and not the mugging capacities of the student. Also, options of taking board exams will be given. Like हमारे वक्त में क्या है, कभी 10th और 12th का एक ही बार एग्जाम होता है, तो एक बार में अगर परफॉर्मेंस नहीं अच्छा हुआ तो गया. But policy says that option of taking improvement in board exams will also be given. So these are the things that they propose. Now, if you see early childhood education, so in new education policy, they try to uh, emphasize during the formative years, like initially, let's say initially 5 plus 3, what they said. So colors, shape, alphabet, numbers, that they need to identify relationship with the nature, because generally in school times they don't allow to like mingle in the nature. So some time will be spared for kids to get along with the nature. Special subjects for arts, crafts and music will be given so that they can have the feel of all these crafts. Then logical thinking and problem solving. This will come later part of school days. During standard 6, they are planning to introduce coding courses. So logical thinking and problem solving come on later part of the study. And some elements of curiosity will be introduced, like how to develop the curiosity in the students. Then their behavior and emotional department, etiquette, behavioral, emotional department, caring of old people, likewise, other aspects will all be taught. Then self-identity. The courses or the topics will be introduced in such a way that they will be able to identify themselves. Ethical teaching, play-based learning, discovery-based learning, teamwork and collaboration. So the major aspect of early childhood education in new education policy will depend on these aspects. So the designer of syllabus, designer of curriculum will try to tackle these aspects through their teachings. So we really have to see that how they come up with the courses on these topics. Secondly, undergraduate degree with 3 to 4 years of duration with multiple exit options will be available, and appropriate certificate at all levels will be given. So that was regarding school education. This is regarding undergraduate education. There won't be any hard separation among the curricular, extracurricular, co-curricular, along arts, humanities and sciences, and amongst vocational and academic streams. यानी एक बात जो कही जाती है कि साइंस, कॉमर्स, आर्ट्स इस तरह के एकदम स्ट्रिक्ट सेपरेशन नहीं रहेंगे. नो डाउट दे विल बी देयर, बट देयर वोंट बी एनी हार्ड सेपरेशन अमॉन्ग्स द करिकुलर्स. सो ऐसा नहीं है कि साइंस कॉलेज तो साइंस ही है, मैथ्स कॉमर्स कॉलेज तो कॉमर्स कॉलेज है, बट एम इज टू डेवलप मल्टी सब्जेक्ट्स और मल्टी डिसिप्लिनरी इंस्टीट्यूट्स. लाइक एक ही कॉलेजेस में कॉमर्स भी होगा, साइंस भी होगा, इंजीनियरिंग भी होगा. दैट इज व्हाट द एम इज. सो ऑल हायर एजुकेशन इंस्टीट्यूशन टू बिकम multidisciplinary by 2040. So they want that all kind of courses should run in multidisciplinary form at one place. So here one picture is depicting the universal access to education. So first is learning outcomes are defined, and all the children should be given equal opportunity. There can be multiple pathways to reach this. We also know that there are a lot of dropouts in college education. To how can we bring back those dropouts? What are the alternative centers of teaching and learning? How we can do peer tutoring, and what would the learning outcomes out of that? So all these things will be considered and have been considered in this NEP. The only thing is now we have to see that how we can implement this. Increased flexibility is given to the student for the choice of subject they want to study. Then for studying 4-year BA, there will be 4-year BEd program. So large number of merit-based scholarship will be provided if you are studying this 4-year BEd program. Teacher eligibility test, that is TET, that will be strengthened. Better testing material to reflect a score will be given. Then to develop skills and knowledge for teachers, local, regional, state level, national level, international level workshops will be planned. And at least 50 hours of participation is required in a year for each teacher for this contributory personality development programs that is been scheduled by government. By 2030, teacher education will move to multidisciplinary universities. Again, this is one picture I have taken from a newspaper called Asian News, which says that NEP will try to reduce curriculum in a way that core essentials कितने चाहिए. तो curriculum in all the subjects to be reduced to its core essentials. यानी आप अभी देख रहे हो हर एक सब्जेक्ट इलेक्ट्रिकल, मैकेनिकल, सिविल, जिसके भी प्रोग्राम सिलेबस बन रहे हैं आप देख रहे हो उसमें से कोर सब्जेक्ट्स बहुत कम हो रहे हैं और एक्स्ट्रा करिकुलर सब्जेक्ट जैसे ह्यूमैनिटीज़ हैं और बाकी के सब्जेक्ट्स की इम्पोर्टेंस बढ़ रही है. तो दैट इज एज पर दिस पॉलिसी ओनली कि दे आर ट्राइंग टू रिड्यूस द कोर एसेंशियल्स. दे आर ट्राइंग टू क्रिएट क्रिटिकल थिंकिंग. सो मोर सब्जेक्ट्स ऑन क्रिटिकल थिंकिंग, inquiry discovery, discussion analysis, things, holistic education, they are trying to introduce more into this. Interactive classes and teaching. So less dependency on textbook learning and questions from students, interaction from the students will be emphasized, and more experimental learning like fun and learn, creative, collaborative, exploratory activities would be done in classroom. So less on theoretical aspects, more on practical aspect. That is what NEP is focusing on. Now to implement this education policy, there are various commissions that has been set up. So first is one council has been set up that is called National Higher Education Regulatory Council. This will function as a single regulator for higher education sector, excluding medical and legal. तो medical और legal को अलग रखा गया है, बाकी सारे education जो है वो नेशनल हायर एजुकेशन रेगुलेटरी काउंसिल के अंडर में आ जाएंगे. सिस्टम ऑफ ग्रेडेड ऑटोनॉमी बेस्ड ऑन एक्रेडिटेशन फॉर कॉलेजेस. कॉलेजेस जिस लेवल का एक्रेडिटेशन लेके आएंगे उतने लेवल की उनको एकेडमी में ऑटोनॉमी मिलने वाली है. High performing Indian university may also set up campuses in other countries. So let's say IIT Bombay, if it is performing very high, it can set up a campuses in other country. Selected university among the top 100 in the world may operate in India as per the new policy. So in new policy, there is a scope that foreign universities like Oxford or any other university may open their campus in India. Regulatory system of higher education to distinct for regulation, accreditation, funding and academic standards setting under Higher Education Commission of India. So ये सारी चीज़ों के लिए, रेगुलेशन के लिए, एक्रेडिटेशन के लिए, फंडिंग के लिए, स्टैंडर्ड्स के लिए हर एक के लिए छोटा छोटा अलग ऑर्गेनाइजेशन बनेगा और उन सबका जो टॉप रहेगा वो रहेगा हायर एजुकेशन कमीशन ऑफ इंडिया, HECI। तो NEP 2020 में 4 ईयर मल्टीडिसिप्लिनरी बैचलर डिग्री प्रपोज किया गया है, जिसमें 1 साल खत्म होने के बाद यू विल गेट अ सर्टिफिकेट, 2 ईयर्स के बाद डिप्लोमा एंड 3 ईयर्स के बाद बैचलर और 4 ईयर्स के बाद मल्टीडिसिप्लिनरी बैचलर प्रोग्राम। बट अगेन दिस इज फॉर आर्ट्स एंड कॉमर्स। इंजीनियरिंग के लिए 3 साल के बाद डिप्लोमा, 4 साल के बाद डिग्री है, और आर्ट्स कॉमर्स के लिए 3 साल के बाद डिग्री है, और चौथा साल करता है तो यू कैन टेक सम मल्टीडिसिप्लिनरी ऑप्शन। एमफिल की डिग्री जो है वो डिसकंटिन्यू की जाएगी, क्योंकि फॉरेन यूनिवर्सिटीज में इफ यू सी देयर इज नो समथिंग कॉल्ड एमफिल डिग्री। इन इंडिया देयर इज ए एमफिल डिग्री, so that will be discontinued in NEP 2020. Now सबसे एपेक्स अथॉरिटी कौन रहेगा? तो सबसे एपेक्स अथॉरिटी रहेगी हायर एजुकेशन काउंसिल ऑफ इंडिया, HECI. So it will be set up with goal to increase the enrollment ratio. So HECI will have 4 verticals. उसमें 4 एक इंस्टीट्यूशंस उसके अंडर में रहेगी। तो उसमें सबसे पहले रहेगी नेशनल हायर एजुकेशन रेगुलेटरी काउंसिल, NHERC. It will regulate higher education, including teachers education, but medical और legal उसमें समावेश नहीं रहेगा। Then National Accreditation Council, ये रहेगी एक्रेडिशन की बॉडी, यानी अपने जो NAC और NBA है वो दोनों इसके अंडर में आ जाएंगे। Then comes Higher Education Grants Council, यानी कि जो फंडिंग करेंगे, फंडिंग के लिए अलग काउंसिल रहेगी, दैट इज हायर एजुकेशन ग्रांट्स काउंसिल for funding and financing of universities and colleges. So this will replace the existing National Council of Teacher Education, All India Council of Technical Education and University Grant Commission. ये सब कुछ इसके अंडर में आ जाएगा, Higher Education Grants Council. Then fourth one is General Education Council. It will frame the graduate attributes, namely learning outcomes expected. It will also be responsible for framing National Higher Education Qualification Framework. I repeat, National Higher Education Qualification Framework. And National Council for Teacher Education will come under GEC as a professional standard setting body by PSSB. तो ये जो भी स्टैंडर्ड सेट करने होंगे वो GEC करेंगी। तो स्टैंडर्ड्स के लिए GEC, ग्रांट्स के लिए HECG, एक्रेडिशन के लिए NAC और रेगुलेटरी के लिए NHERC, एंड दिस ऑल 4 विल कम अंडर हायर एजुकेशन काउंसिल ऑफ इंडिया। प्रोफेशनल सोसाइटीज जो है, प्रोफेशनल स्टैंडर्ड्स तो हर एक के लिए अलग अलग बनेंगे। जैसे एग्रीकल्चर के लिए इंडियन काउंसिल ऑफ एग्रीकल्चर रिसर्च, आर्किटेक्चर के लिए काउंसिल ऑफ आर्किटेक्चर, वेटरनरी के लिए काउंसिल ऑफ वेटरनरी, और वोकेशनल एजुकेशन के लिए नेशनल काउंसिल ऑफ वोकेशनल एजुकेशन एंड ट्रेनिंग। सो ये जो स्टैंडर्ड की ऑर्गेनाइजेशन बनेगी GEC, तो GEC के अंडर में सारे जो काउंसिल्स हैं हर एक एजुकेशन फील्ड के, वो उसके अंदर आएंगे। एंट्रेंस एग्जाम फॉर एडमिशंस टू यूनिवर्सिटी अक्रॉस कंट्री विल बी डन बाय नेशनल टेस्टिंग एजेंसी। Already we are doing this, JEE main is already taken by National Testing Agency and NEET also. So अब सारी एग्जाम्स, सिर्फ JEE और NEET नहीं, लेकिन सारी एग्जाम्स जो है वो नेशनल टेस्टिंग एजेंसी के पास जाएंगी। This policy proposes that higher education institutes like IITs make changes with the diversity of learning. So IITs जो बड़ी कॉलेजेस हैं, बड़ी इंस्टीट्यूट्स हैं, उनको भी डाइवर्सिटी ऑफर करने के लिए कहा गया है। Then internalization of education in India. So foreign universities will now be able to set up the campuses in India, as I already told you, and fees for public and private universities will be fixed. So there is a proposal that they are going to fix the fees, just like a fee regulatory committee. So they will also fix the university fees in private. So major changes which are proposed in NP 2020 is freedom of choice. So first is rigid system of art, commerce and science that will go, and flexible system that student can choose any subject of their interest, even like economics, art, सो देयर विल बी फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी ऑफ चॉइस. अब आप सोचोगे कि अरे साइंस कॉमर्स आर्ट्स चले जाएगा तो फिर कैसे आगे कैसे बढ़ेंगे. तो वो तो स्टूडेंट को सोचना है. लाइक स्टूडेंट इफ ही वांट्स कि साइंस के साथ मुझे कॉमर्स भी लेना है, आर्ट्स का भी सब्जेक्ट लेना है, तो डिपेंडिंग ऑन हिज मेजर एंड माइनर पीपल विल ऑप्ट फॉर जॉब. Sorry. Similar way, vocational education and practical education is given importance. Also, coding will be given from class 6. अब होता ही है कि इंडिया में जब भी वैकेशन होता है तो स्टूडेंट यूज टू सीट फॉर 3-4 months एट होम. दिवाली में 1 महीना, समर में 2-3 महीना. सो इफ एनी स्टूडेंट वांट टू यूज दैट टाइम फॉर वोकेशनल एजुकेशन or practical education, he'll be able to do that. Internships will be provided from 6th grade with local trades and crafts. So from 6th grade only, if someone want to do internship, he will be able to do so. Importance will be given to skill development and practical assignments. Then assessment will be not only based on the report cards by a single teacher point of view. अभी क्या होता है स्कूल में कि when you pass out any year, you will have a report card, and then that report card may be because of one teacher or 2-3 teachers, but then report card will include self assessment by students in addition to existing teachers evaluation. यानी विद्यार्थी खुद अपना भी इवेल्यूशन करेगा कि मैंने मेरे सब्जेक्ट्स में कैसा परफॉर्म किया है, राइट. तो परख for performance assessment, review and analysis of knowledge for holistic development. तो एक नया असेसमेंट स्कीम आने वाला है. ए न्यू नेशनल असेसमेंट सेंटर विल बी सेटअप. यानी पूरा नेशनल असेसमेंट सेंटर बनेगा. उस सेंटर में विद्यार्थी ने अपना कैसे इवोल्यूशन किया है, उस विद्यार्थी का बाकी सारे विद्यार्थियों ने कैसे इवोल्यूशन किया है, उस विद्यार्थी का टीचर ने कैसे इवोल्यूशन किया है, उस सबका मिला के आपका एक परफॉर्मेंस कार्ड मिलेगा, राइट. एन एकेडमिक बैंक ऑफ क्रेडिट ABC will be established which will digitally store the academic credits earned from various recognized HEIs, which also can be transferred and counted as a part of final degree. यानी पूरा कॉमन सिस्टम बन जाएगा. अभी कैसे पान कार्ड है तो पान कार्ड में आप किसी भी बैंक में ट्रांजेक्शन करो, पान कार्ड के नंबर में आपको दिखता है. सिमिलर वे कॉमन पोर्टल बनेगा एकेडमिक बैंक ऑफ क्रेडिट. उस बैंक ऑफ क्रेडिट में आपने लेट से गुजरात में से कुछ कोर्स कर लिया, फिर महाराष्ट्र से कुछ कोर्स किया, किसी कॉलेज से दूसरा कोर्स किया, तो सारे कोर्सेज का वहाँ पे क्रेडिट रजिस्टर्ड होगा और फिर वो क्रेडिट को आप ट्रांसफर कर सकते हो किसी डिग्री को लेने के लिए, राइट. तो एक क्रेडिट बैंक बनेगा जिसमें आपके सारे क्रेडिट्स हैं वो स्टोर रहेंगे. Preference is given to mother tongue as a medium of instruction for better understanding of the student. There will be a single entrance exam for all the colleges. हालांकि हम लोग हमेशा कहते हैं कि भाई सिंगल एंट्रेंस एग्जाम अभी भी है, बट लेट अस सी हाउ दे कैन डू. लेट्स से वी से दैट कि JEE एक कॉमन एंट्रेंस एग्जाम है, लेकिन आप उन पेरेंट्स को पूछिए कि जिसके बच्चे 12th में हैं, JEE, GUJSET, बोर्ड, then you have a Vellore Institute of Technology, then you have a Pilani Institute. So again, people, although they say that it's a single entrance, but let us see how they will go. The National Education Technology Forum, NETF, will be created to ramp up the digital learning. तो digital learning को बढ़ावा देने के लिए Education Technology Forum बनाया जाएगा. Multidisciplinary college will be set up in every district. तो हर एक डिस्ट्रिक्ट में एक कॉलेज ऐसा होगा कि जिसमें सारे कोर्सेज, आर्ट्स, कॉमर्स, साइंस, इंजीनियरिंग, सब कुछ वहीं पे एक जगह मिल जाए, सो दैट स्टूडेंट हैव अ चॉइस. म्यूजिक, आर्ट्स, लिटरेचर टू बी टॉट इन ऑल द कॉलेजेस. MPhil will be discontinued. Sanskrit will have a mainstream. Multi-entry exit system will be incorporated. यानी फर्स्ट ईयर सेकंड ईयर करके निकल जाओ या सेकंड ईयर थर्ड ईयर में एंट्री ले लो, ऐसे कुछ मल्टी एंट्री एग्जिट सिस्टम विल बी इनकॉर्पोरेटेड. फॉरेन कॉलेजेस, एज आई टोल्ड, इट विल बी सेटअप. एंड एक्सपेंडिचर इसमें बढ़ने वाला है फ्रॉम गवर्नमेंट साइड. अब तक जो GDP का शेयर रखा जाता था एजुकेशन में, दैट वाज सम 3.4 to 4%. बट नाउ इन न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी जीडीपी का 6% का खर्चा जो है वो एजुकेशन में किया जाएगा. सो दैट इज अ रियली वेलकम स्टेप. 6% इज वेरी हाई. तो कंपैरिजन ऑफ प्रीवियस एंड न्यू एजुकेशन सिस्टम. तो चलो हम कंपैरिजन करते हैं कि प्रीवियस सिस्टम में और इस सिस्टम में क्या फ़र्क है. तो जैसा कि मैंने कहा कि जीडीपी, तो प्रीवियसली इंडिया वाज स्पेंडिंग सम 3.8% ऑफ जीडीपी. नाउ इट इज प्रपोज्ड दैट 6% ऑफ जीडीपी विल बी स्पेंड इन एजुकेशन सिस्टम. जीईआर, हम सबको पता है जीईआर क्या है, ग्रॉस एनरोलमेंट रेशियो. सो टिल 1890 it was 26.3. They're expecting that by 2035 it should reach to 50%. Then schooling structure, it was 10 plus 2 plus 3, here it is 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. Then bachelor's program. So right now current program in India is 3 years, master is 2 years. I'm talking about arts and science. Here it will be kind of a 5-year program possible, where bachelor and master together, means it can be a single degree continuously for 5 years, and you can leave whenever you want. Let's say after 3 years you are not willing to go ahead, you can leave with bachelor's degree, and if you want to go after 4 years you can have a honors, and after 5 years you can have masters. At present, separate state exams are held for admissions. It is proposed that there will be national exam for admissions to university across the country, similar to SAT in United States. Although probably for 1 year they did this JEE common for all, but again there was opposition from the state on various issues. So again they come up from state exam and national exam. But in new education policy it is proposed that there will be unique or single exam for whole country. Then medium of instruction in school. So it currently depends on the school administration in various states of country. In new policy, preferably medium of instruction, at least for class 5, it should be local, and class 8 and beyond, it will be a mix of mother tongue, local language, regional language, they can choose. Then vocational courses. Till now, student can choose to enroll in vocational courses that are available in certain colleges only, and that is all again after schooling. But as per new policy, at least 50% of the learners shall have exposure to the vocational education through school and higher education. And internship from class 6. यानी स्कूल लेवल पे ही आपको वोकेशनल और प्रैक्टिकल ट्रेनिंग्स दी जाएगी, इंटर्नशिप दी जाएगी. हायर एजुकेशन के सब्जेक्ट्स क्या होते थे? तो आर्ट्स, ह्यूमैनिटीज वर फाउंड ऑप्शनल फॉर एनरोलमेंट. बट न्यू पॉलिसी, engineering institutes will move towards more holistic and multidisciplinary education with more arts and humanities. वो तो ऑलरेडी हमारे सिलेबस में अभी आ ही गए हैं. कोडिंग वो 10वीं कक्षा के बाद सिखाया जाता था, अब वो 6 के बाद सिखाया जाएगा. बोर्ड एग्जाम्स, at present they are fixed subjects that a student can opt in their board exams depending on the educational board. In new policy, the student will be able to choose any of the subject which they can take board exam depending on their own interest. Educational approach, till now theoretical education was there. NEP proposes that more practical and overall mental development. So that is what I have got from these references. These are the references which I have followed for framing this presentation. I already mentioned that I am not an expert on this subject, but just because I am dealing with NBA portfolio for so many years, I have got interested in this specific subject. As far as Gujarat government is concerned, what Gujarat government has done is, under the chairmanship of Education Minister Shri Bhupendra Singh Chudasama, he has constituted 4 subcommittees. So all 4 subcommittees has University Chancellor, Vice Chancellor as a chairman, and they are going to give their reports to our education department, and based on that they are going to implement this policy. So in one of the committee we have a GTU VC as a chairman, then another committee is given responsibility to the Gujarat University. Likewise, there are 4 VCs who are given responsibility of each thread, and those 4 subcommittees will again keep meeting with each other. And already this work has started. When I was in KCG last month, I have seen that people from various universities, various committees, they are meeting for discussions on NEP, and they are almost ready with the drafts what they want to propose to the education department. And hopefully Gujarat will also come up with their own action plan regarding implementation of this policy. So thank you very much for listening me. It is almost like 1.5 hours after lunch, and I'm sure that you all are awake and you have listened few of these discussions. So now we can open to the questions. Let us see. Over to you, Mr. Anchor. Qureshi sir.
Yes, sir. So participants may ask questions.
They can pose into this chat box, because if everyone starts opening their mic now, it will be chaos. So they can put in the chat box. I can read the chat box.
Okay, participants are requested to ask question in chat box. And really it was a wonderful session, sir, from Ancient Education System to NEP 2020. And we are hoping the best output from NEP, and it may take 20 years more, but let us hope better. The Parakh assessment system, the ABC Academic Bank of Credit, and government is also raising that 6% GDP budget to our education policy. Let us hope some fruitful outcome will be out of that, and we can reap the fruits in 20 years. I think there is no questions from the participants. Anyone? Okay, participants are very happy, and they are saying that it was quite informative session. So thank you very much, sir, for enlightening on this new education policy. And people are also saying that presentation was very nice. So I think there is no any specific question. Okay, Ketan sir, thank you very much for this presentation, and all the inputs are quite useful for us. And we are hoping that in future we may have some technical sessions from you in any other form of FDP. Thank you very much, Ketan sir.
Thank you.
All participants are requested to fill the attendance for the morning session who have not filled. And we will be reassembled here at 3:30, 10 minutes before 3 hours and 20 minutes. So Mr. Shyam Chavda will be there. He is online educator, and you can learn many things from him. So I am closing the session here, and we will reassemble here at 3 hours 20 minutes. And I am sharing the list of participants for certificate with their institute Excel file will be shared in the group. Please verify your name. If you are finding some discrepancies in that sheet, please inform me. We are processing that for certification. Thank you very much for your kind intention. Thank you. Bye.